Morning. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Chelsea Lowe. This is Creative Mornings Johannesburg. So excited to have you all here for our event today. I'm just going to kick it off with some housekeeping. So first, if you're looking for the bathroom, the loo, it's going to be around past the elevator or the lifts to your left. There's no smoking or vaping on this floor. That includes outside. And then also one more piece of housekeeping from our team is the gates. Please be careful when exiting or entering the gates out here. So just give it a little bit of time so that it doesn't catch you on your way out. So I want to now introduce our team. Before we do that, just to give you a quick overview of Creative Mornings. So there are 244 cities around the world for Creative Mornings that host monthly events around creative and design topics. So we're in 70 countries. Average attendees per month are 27,000 around the world. We also host around 11,000 online talks. And there are videos that you can view of each of these talks online as well. So just want to welcome our team. So team that's in the building today, can you raise your hand? So this is our volunteer team. We're all very excited to host you all today here, Creative Morning. So you have people at registration and then also supporting here. So anyone, if you have any questions, you can address our team there.
Yeah, we love them.
Yes, thank you. All right, so now I just want to do our manifesto. So for Creative Mornings, run through this really quickly. So our manifesto for Creative Morning is everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others. In hugs and high fives, we bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome. All right, so now I just want to hand it off to our leader, who will give a high five to our partners. Woo.
Good morning, everyone. Charles, thanks for the quick intro up front. Just a quick high five to our partners. Adobe is a recently appointed global partner, and they really empower the creative community across the globe. And they really invest in Creative Mornings as an organization that believes in that. So Adobe is our global partner. And then locally, we've got a couple of partners that have joined us since we kicked off Creative Mornings again. 1410 takes care of all of our eventing and production. So all the snapping and the photographs and the video recording, that is our 1410 team. And then we also have Stone Fruit, who are our breakfast beverage partner. So apart from the bottomless coffee that we get from WeWork, we also get ready and smoothies from the Surfer team. WeWork obviously have opened up their doors to us, and every month we host this event here. And then we have cherry-picked locations who are a new eventing partner that have come on board. And they really are about supporting Creative Mornings and believe in this notion of empowering creatives and connecting creatives through these live events. So I think this is also a good opportunity to say, if you really want to partner with our chapter and support us in kind, in monetary or whatever kind of way, please do feel free to chat to me about it. I'm always open to welcoming new partners on board. And then this month's theme is parallel. And the notion of the theme this month is that we live parallel lives. We have experiences in our lives that live in parallel, and we always need to tap into this and understanding that we're never really alone, we never really experience life alone, but what do these different perspectives actually look like? And with that, we thought to pair our theme with this fantastic speaker, Nontokozo Tshabalala. So Nonto actually has lived in Sweden for the past 6 years. She's now back in South Africa. She's a multidisciplinary artist and a creative director. She's also the founder of a design studio called Nontokozo Design Factory, which they founded in 2016. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but they founded that in 2016. She really connects the power of social impact through her creative work, innovation, and really kind of building in her identity in the work that she does, and how people need to understand her work. So we felt that today would be a really great and interesting talk from her. I'd like to welcome her on stage.
Good morning. My name is Nontokozo Tshabalala. Nontokozo means mother of happiness or the essence of joy, for those who do not know. I am born and raised in Standerton, Mpumalanga, and that's actually where I traveled from today. Well, not today, yesterday. So I'm very excited to be here. I remember starting Creative Mornings when I was still like an intern and stuff. And so we were like, yeah, we're gonna do the most amazing thing, which was setting up the breakfast and like putting up the chairs and stuff. But look at me now. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so today's talk, in the theme of parallel, I think in essence it's about self-carving yourself, right? And that self-carve is the revolution. For those who don't know what self-love means, it's self-awareness, loving yourself, investing in yourself, knowing yourself, and just spending a shitload of time with yourself. And so I guess this is going to be a way of telling you how I self-love through my practice. And I think that self-loving goes hand in hand with creativity. You can't create work you don't really believe in, and you cannot create work that you don't really like, right? Because we can tell. We've seen those bad adverts on TV where we're like, who does this? Like, who is this? Because it's not me. So being authentic with the story that you want to share, as well as like, yeah, where you're coming from, essentially, and those two kind of working hand in hand. I just realized the wine gums that I randomly brought to my chair match with the presentation. I just had to share that, and my phone. So with talking about parallels, I think within my practice, I have three things that run hand in hand. I grew up as a very creative child. Yeah, the one thing Mama used to shout at me off was like, I'm a pepper. I'm a pepper. I'm a pepper. Because I was always creating something somewhere, and we always had to pick up papers after me. And so I had an interest in art and design, but I didn't even know that that was the case, because I just knew that I was creative and that I liked colorful things, and that was pretty much it. And I didn't have any examples from my hometown, which is like this tiny. So I didn't have any perspective on like, what is creativity? How can it go and stuff like that? And I think also with the creativity, it also requires like having a kaleidoscopic view of things. So seeing the same thing, but seeing it from like different angles, being able to zoom out and in. And so I think for me, that was, that's something that I have. And that's how I bring it, and that's how my creativity actually is. And then the middle part of it, which is identity, obviously being a Black woman, assigned female at birth, but also being an African. And I think also it's kind of embedded in history, like where do you come from? Where did we begin, essentially, right? And so I think identity has a big part in my work, and also just like mapping out who am I, essentially. The last being community. I think community has got to do with like location, where you are based, geography-wise, and also can be site-specific. And for me, I grew up in Standerton, as I mentioned, not Santon, Standerton, Estanera, Mawasho, on your way to KZN. I think also friends are a community, and also just people in general. So the work that you're going to see, I think, touches on these three things. By the way, the colors are green, a mustardy yellow, and a pink. It's not very visible on the screen, so you're not going to get the same visuals. And where all of this began, being able to understand that these are the three things that run in my practice, was back in Standerton. I grew up there, went to primary school there, and the context of it is that it's a small town, and the best school happens to be a well-developed Afrikaans school. So all the parents basically want their kids to be in the best school, but being in the best school meant that you had to kind of let go of yourself a little bit. And so being a teenager, this was when I was, how old was I? Grade 11, so that is 17. And growing up in this town meant that, and specifically having to go to this specific school, is that we had to compete as like the black kids of the town. We had to compete to get into this one English class while there were like 7 classes in a grade, right? So all of the other black majority kids from around town and the one English-speaking school had to compete to be in this specific school. And when you're in there, you still kind of meant to feel like you're less than. So your blackness is not really accepted and your identity is sort of pushed to the side because you need to kind of like subscribe to being an Afrikaner. And that doesn't work if you're a black Zulu girl, right? Or any other black individual. Can I please have water? Because I need to breathe. Thank you. I'm like nervous, and then I'm talking a lot, and then I can't breathe. So I need water to remind me to breathe. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
You just walked in on a talk.
Private event.
No, it's not private. Thank you. Okay, we're back by popular demand. So, as I mentioned here, like growing up here meant that you were kind of in battle with yourself and in battle with like your dreams essentially and your belonging and where you come from and all of those things, just so you can fit in this best school. And I think a lot of us were kind of traumatized by the school because a friend of mine and I went back for an athletics day and we were sitting there and we were looking at all the black kids like being happy and all the stuff. And we're like, we really hope it's so different for them because for us, it was a shit show. And like my friend said to me, she said something like, I hope that these kids don't lose their light. And I thought that was pretty profound to be able to kind of like look at them and think to ourselves that like, man, having that light within you at this age is so important, and that being in an environment that encourages it is also just as important. So this is the background that I kind of come from. And with that, I started to realize that like my little nephew, who's not so little anymore, he's now like 14, and he was also starting to battle with these ideas around identity and starting to battle around like, who am I? And I remember him asking me a question like, why am I this color? Referring to his skin color. And at the time I was in university learning graphic design, and being there, I was like, damn, like here I am, busy outside, fees must fall, tear gas here, tear gas there, and like busy trying to design. And then this kid is just going to school, but also just questioning who he is. And I thought that was quite sad. So I started to look more closer at like the black child and like, I guess also going back to that black child. And so I think that like my practice in many ways talks to, Nufi is his nickname. So looking at Nufi and looking at like the younger version of myself, but also looking at my love for people, and also looking at the location from which I come from, but also like the historical context of like how we ended up where we ended up. I think it makes like this life triangle for me where I want all of us to feel free. I want all of us to be able to live in a world where we can be ourselves, like holistically, and that requires also like justice being served, right? So as they call me back home, I am the Julius Malema of Standarton, or not Standarton specifically, but they call me Julius Malema in my former high school just because I talk about Black love and Black consciousness and stuff. That's how bad it is, by the way. So for me, my practice is about justice, going back to that kid, going back to my roots and understanding that, hey, I'm the shit. Thank you. And so when I started my studies, which was in graphic design, I had the privilege of being taught by an amazing lecturer named Robin Cook, who currently lives on a farm somewhere in the UK and living her best life with like a few goats. And she just, she's just happy, man. And she taught me about decentering whiteness in my practice. She also taught me how to, when you know something, but you don't know that you know it, and then somebody just shines a light and you're like, oh, that's it. So she made me realize what imagination was, but also like tapping into like Afrofuturism. She also taught me how to be brave and unapologetic within my practice. And so one of the things that I had, as I was saying, like it was during Christmas Fall, and like the design school was, this oasis where they weren't being affected by anything, and I say I was part of that. We were not being affected by anything because, I don't know, I guess whiteness protected us and like design protected us. So I was going out, so I looked at Riz, so we're outside, running away from tear gas and being suspended and shit like that. And then I come back to class and everything is like super peaceful. And everybody's just continuing like nothing's happening outside. And I'm like, guys, am I the only person? And I was the only person who was going out to protest. So now I'm coming back and like in a t-shirt and shorts. And I'm just like, nothing's happening. Nobody's affected. I was like, okay. So this frustration really built in. And then I was sitting in class and I was trying to come up with an idea for a project that I was doing. And she said to me, can you just because I told her, I was like, I'm very frustrated by the fact that like the school is not affected by this at all. And then here I am also like trying to do my best to make people realize that free education should be for everyone. And that is not really a big thing to ask. And also free decolonized education is not a big thing to ask. And so how can we make that like possible, but then come to a class and like nobody gives a damn? And then she was just like, girl, how about you just take it a couple years back and imagine the very first university with no white people? And like, how did that look like? And I was like, oh shit, what? My brain literally just like blew up because for the first time I could take out the oppression out of my world and think about a place of possibility, a place where I felt safe, a place where I felt like I could have an impact, a place where I was accepted just as I was. And so I was like to her, girl, but you are not in that world, so how are we supposed to go about this? And she was just like, no, come on, imagine, just imagine it. And so through that, I started to really look at the world through what I call the brown lens, which is specifically creating, designing, and coming from my perspective as a Black individual, and telling my story as it is. And so when I came back to submit the project, I created this poster series and I was talking about white privilege, the invisible silver spoon. And during that time, I was pissed off. So this was just like, I'm gonna tell you guys now about like this thing that's like really just, holding me by the neck. And I created this like zine that talked about all the different stereotypes that are linked with Black people and like how or why we are so called like, inferior, if I can put it like that. And so I created these posters and I found my freedom in being able to use collage and to play with collage as a way to like express all of these thoughts. And so this was the very first project after that realization of like, hey, I can create a world for myself. And speaking of Afrofuturism, The words by Sunu Gonera. He said that it is a moment where our origins meet the possibilities of our people. For me, this was very important because it was a starting point to really play around with the ideas of what does a future look like, where Black people have been, not have been given, but get to be free and get to create and get to be themselves. And I thought this was a very inspiring way of talking about Afrofuturism. And then, of course, I started to go into like the visuals of the stuff that were out at that time, and I was like, damn, this is so cool. I was listening to an artist. I was very inspired by I forgot her name now, but Dubane, and she was kind of like the face for me, specifically with Afrofuturism, with all her like her fashion and stuff, and also looking at music. And I also started to think like, actually, the real OGs of Afrofuturism were like our fighters, the people who fought for our country. They wanted to see me standing here, holding a mic, pointing a middle finger to apartheid and being like, we made it, and we are here, we're not going anywhere. So I'm inspired by them and their dreams and their hopes and the hopes that they had for us. So after that, I was like, the West can miss me. We are going to be focused, driven, and only directed towards the upliftment of my Black individual self. And so myself and my former business partner, Osman Shuma, we started an agency called Nontokozo Design Factory, as they mentioned. And with Nontokozo, we wanted it to be, like, we wanted to kind of spread the good news around what it means to be completely consumed by Africa as a starting point for inspiration, for looking at like different artifacts as also design objects, and not only looking to the West for inspiration, because we were taught about like all these white men in Europe who were now affecting us here in South Africa. But I'm like, well, the Black people who actually created things here and did stuff. So we were kind of digging into the archive, and it was also a way to tap into ourselves as individuals, but to also learn about ourselves and to use it as like a very practical space to be like, hey, we want to learn about ourselves, and we're going to use our studio as that. And so this is some of the work that we created during that time. And we were very proud of being able to say to our clients, hey, listen, if you're not ready to be Black, this is not the agency for you. We're kind of tapping into the African context of everything. And even the Black people who came were also like, we want nice things. And then we said, here's nice things. And then after that, they were like, no, this is not the nice thing that we wanted. We wanted the other one. And it's just like, you know, the self-love thing is quite deep. So even with that, being able to say like, these are the clients that we want, these are the things that we're going after, and setting a red line, you know, and saying that we're not gonna go back to what you think we're going to, we're trying to go forward. And so we found ourselves, and we did a lot of amazing work. We did projects in the UK, the Africa Center in the UK. We created work for them. We worked with the Obama Foundation. We worked with a lot of top dogs. Yeah, we did. And just the two of us outsourcing, huh? Like, come on, we made history. And this was a big deal for like not only just us in terms of being able to find ourselves in our work, but also for the students and the people who are around us, who were in the design, specifically graphic design industry. We basically told them, you can go, you can do it, you can do it. Like, you can do it. It's not that scary, you can do it, even though it was, but that's what we tried to do. So I'm gonna share with you a few of projects that I have worked on. I'm multidisciplinary, so I try to bring in a lot of different things. I don't know if we'll have time to go through some of the rest, but I'll do my best. to show you most of them. So the first project is Facebook Africa, and this was an illustration job where we had to illustrate inspiring South African women in business, and I was tasked along with Z Fields and Karabo Papi to do I always get it wrong, coffee table book. Yeah, it was a small little book with all these portraits of these amazing women. And these were the portraits that I had worked on. And with them, I'm obsessed with pattern and color, of course. So I created a pattern for each of the women and tried to bring out the essence of like what they were all about through like the halo and stuff. So for example, you can see with Siva, she has like an orange, Bonang with the bling, Professor Tuli with the books, and yeah, and so it goes on. And so these were them. So if anybody owns like a textile company, let a girl know, I want to put these out, please. I've been saying it, I'm going to continue to say it. And then the next project is called Future Brown Space. And Future Brown Space is a artistic research initiative of Afro-diasporic practitioners to develop their artistic projects in a safe and nourishing environment. So it was created by John Paul, who is based in Sweden. And when he approached me, he was like, make it bold, make it pretty, make it pop. Basically, that's what he said. And I was like, okay, I got that. So both of us wanted to bring in our South African heritage into the design. And so Future Brown Space, the branding in itself, is a place to celebrate ourselves in a future orientated in the abundance of Black and brown joy and hope. Through the logo, we explore the Nguni ancient writing system as a way to assert ourselves in the future by reimagining that which was passed down to us by those who forever guide us. So the logo is created with a combination of the Nguni writing system. And so I had an animation video, but you can check it out on my website. But here, like the different symbols, for example, this is guiding star and hope. This one is future. This one is greatness. I believe this is place of justice. This one means us as like a collective. And then this is, I believe, home or place. One of the two. The two I always mix up. But I tried to like combine them to tell the story of the specific place. And then in terms of like executing the branding, these were examples like postcards that we created. And again, trying to go back to like creating a space where we can educate people about our heritage and kind of, because I think the fear most times is that like, hey, you can't make it black because then you have to like explain it. And then I'm like, no, we can't make it black. And then if you want to find out, you can come and ask. It's not, it doesn't work like the old times. No, it's new times now. So we created, the symbols as kind of a center point to be able to educate our clients as well, because we were all kind of new to it. So within the postcard, you have the symbol, and then there would be like a short explanation, not really like, but like the meaning of the symbol in the corner. So we were educating ourselves, but also like trying to extend it out to the people that engaged with the branding. And if they were curious enough, they would see it. And then we worked with like different publications. So these are just some of the examples of them, and business cards as well. Bringing in the visual language as well, like playing with line, form, shapes, and colors to make it like stand out, pop, as he said. And the next project is called Picatory Studios. And Picatory Studios is a photography and video company owned by Andile Mtembu, who is a photographer based here in SA. And he basically was like, hey, I would like a branding that talks about, Picatory Studios was a place where he was trying to get a lot of other creatives, a lot of other photographers to come in and contribute on the perspective shifting of like the work. So he didn't want to be the only photographer. He wanted to create a space where other photographers can also share in. And so the whole point was to create to create a platform to have multiple perspectives into the work. And so this was his current branding. And I was like, bruh, this is functional. You know, we know what it is. And so we laughed about it, and he was like, okay, show me what you got. So I went back to the writing system, and I found some symbols that talked about some of the keywords that he had put out, which was like visual storytelling. He wanted to capture like the essence of a moment and like an opportunity to immortalize a moment, transforming fleeting instances into timeless works of art, and then also pushing like the boundaries of creativity. So when I went back into the archives, I looked for two symbols that would do this. And so the concept of the work was paying witness. So I started to explore with these two shapes, trying to see how can you like, you know, how do you make them work? And then ended up on like this symbol talking to like, you know, multiple perspectives, kind of like an abyss of some sort, but of like multiple perspectives. And then I thought to myself, okay, this is like too thick, too, like you can't read it, basically. It looks like it's fighting for its life. So then I simplified it and left it at this place, keeping this geometrical, you know, kind of shape in the inside, but also still talking to what he wanted. And then added a nice slick font to it, which I think worked. And then started to pick colors. Again, this is green, a very beautiful green. Let me just show you actually, there's not a lot of people. This is the green. You see? Exactly. There's life. Okay, I can leave this here. Yeah, and then with the visual language, playing again with these multiple perspectives, kind of winding into each other, and again, the colors, these ones are trying, but it looked like that, so that was the visual language. And then how to expand it as well, it looked like this. And it's still a work in progress because we haven't finalized it, so he hasn't published it yet, but he gave me the permission to share it with you guys. The next project is, tell me, how much time do I have? Okay, so I'll talk to the next one. On the Aluta Termina. So talking about this whole thing of like, the struggle continues. The struggle continues. We are going to continue to fight. We are going to continue. Until when? When do we actually get to realize this freedom that we are fighting for? And so the next project is an exhibition that I worked on called Where the Struggle Ends. And Where the Struggle Ends was, let me just show it, was I was given a room, and in the room I wanted to create a multi-sensory experience where somebody could come in and escape from the world outside. It's a utopia in many different ways. And there's a poem that goes with it. It's about 7 minutes, but you can check it on my website. And there I was trying to walk you through where it is that I want us to end up, which is a place of justice and hope and of love, where we are with our loved ones, where we don't have to fight, where we don't have to beg for acceptance, where we don't have to do much, we just exist as we are. So, okay, there you go. That was a part of it, but hey. So, within it, I brought in like the graphic design aspect of things with the geometrical clouds. And on this side was like when you entered, there were like stars. And there was this very beautiful like sound piece that we had worked on. So I really do encourage you to go to my website to just go and watch it. And yeah, so that was that. And for me, this was an opportunity to completely like express this future that I would love for all of us to be in, and to ask the questions of like, what do we need to leave behind in order to embrace it? And some of us need to leave pride behind. Some of us need to leave feeling like we're abandoned or as victims and all sorts of things. Some of us have to leave just a lot of stuff that, of course, come from like our childhood and the experiences that we have in life in general. But the question was, what do you need to leave behind in order to be in this future and to exist as your holistic self? And sometimes that is also leaving your 9 to 5. Tricky. And the last project that I wanted to share is one that's really close to my heart. And the reason I think I'm also currently based in Standerton, it's called Creative Shall Govern, because I believe we will. It's just a matter of time. And what it is basically, when I was still living in Sweden, I came back home and I was like, I would love to connect with Standerton's creative scene. And actually, shout out to Angelo, who's from Standerton, who came here today, not from Standerton, but came here to support, and I'm so grateful that you are here. This makes it even more like heartwarming to be able to talk about this while you're here. So thank you. And so when I came back from Sweden, I wanted to collect all the creatives because we never had any platform where we could meet other creatives or even better yet, like professionals. So I wanted to collect people together and see, hey, how do we go about this creative thing in this small town? Like, what are we gonna do, you know? And so the first one, we had a gathering, and then the next one, my business partner hosted it in Harare, and there as well also collected a bunch of creatives just to see who's who, what's happening, and it was a great success for both of those. And I'll share with you the last project that we did, which was turn a warehouse, which was ditzy, like ditzy, and we transformed it into a gallery space. So we cleaned it. That is us having a good old time with dust. And we painted different patches off the wall white so we could put up the artwork. And the whole project was led by myself, but I also wanted to allow the other creatives that were part of it to be part of the process of building it, so that if I disappear, the project doesn't disappear with me, but that other people can do the same thing. So, so we transformed it and we created a gallery space / skate park. It was a skate park actually, but then we just put back all the stuff, and then we had an exhibition there. We had 8 artists who are in the next picture. Yes, all of them over there, all of us smiling happy at what we've done. And we had paintings, we had illustration, we had talks. So for example, here we were having like a roundtable talk using whatever we had. Essentially, the budget was 3K, by the way. So we only painted walls, got snacks, and paint, snacks, paint and snacks. That's all we could afford. And so, that's how it ended up, and got a bunch of people to come in and experience the art, which I believe was also first of its kind, specifically with Black artists too. I stand to be corrected, but it was the first of its kind. And through that, I got the opportunity, through what I do, I got the opportunity to bring one of those artists, Charles Zulu. There you go. I got to bring him to Sweden to come and talk about his practice. And for me, this was a dream come true, because I've always wanted to be able to get somebody from Standerton to come to Sweden or to the world, just to come and see, what's happening outside. And he had a talk and talked about his practice. So do check him out on Instagram. This was us. Very happy, happiness, just joy, just joy. So we were just really happy to have been able to do that. And with that said, thank you very much for listening to me. You can check out all the work that I was talking about on my website. That's nonto.myportfolio.com. And you can also hit me up on Instagram or on via email. So yes, snap.
Thank you for that. I'm going to open the floor up. Questions, comments, thoughts. We do have a bit of time.
Yay.
And I think this is a great time to engage in on her work, her perspective, and what she basically took us through this morning. These are working, right?
Yay, questions. Amazing.
Thank you. The name Kika Okomalusi. Two questions.
Yes.
The first is, what do you make of this current moment of kind of geopolitical identity fragmentation? I know a lot of your work is inspired by kind of identity politics, so I'm keen to just get a reflection from you, both in terms of what's happening in the US, but also locally. I think there's a lot of spiritual violence happening between kind of races, which is doing a lot of work that was done kind of 94 to date. So I'm just keen to get your perspective, especially around creativity, identity, and community. The second is your 9 to 5 statement. The reality is that the arts is under threat in terms of sustainability.
100%.
We are seen as a luxury, so we are the first to be cut on budgets. So I'm just keen to get your perspective on the business of the arts and how do we build institutions of value, businesses of value that can kind of be sustained over time, so that we're not survivalist, but our creativity actually allows us to live.
Thank you. Well, beautiful question. I forgot the first one, but I'll answer the second one. I think one of the most important things is to firstly collaborate. And I know it's difficult to be able to say, yeah, guys, let's just work together and make this thing happen and stuff, because we're all coming in from different perspectives and different backgrounds and stuff like that. But I think giving ourselves a chance to know that we can have a team, that you have a team, first of all, is like the start to it. Because then when you understand that you have support, you are able to then create from a place of like, I will not be let down, and you won't be like waiting for like doom and gloom, essentially. Because I think, for example, specifically with like Black creatives, it's this thing of we're all fighting for that one opportunity, that one thing, that one thing. But why are we fighting for that when we could be together and like create together, you know? And then we don't have to like face in that same direction and get those crumbs. So for me, I think it's firstly starting with that, accepting that you are able to be supported. And sometimes you have to be really crazy to believe that, because some people won't support you. Some people won't be on the same page with you. But with that being said, what I realized with the people that we had worked with, there was a lot of trust in what we were doing and a lot of trust in us being able to execute, because we were Black excellence, right? We didn't want to drop the ball for not even ourselves. Forget the client, for ourselves. We didn't want to drop the ball for ourselves. And that meant we had to keep each other accountable in a lot of things. And that requires a lot of those characteristics that we always talk about: accountability, trust, transparency, and all those different things. If we can just bring those to the forefront, I think we can build a lot of spaces and institutions that can lead with integrity, and that can enable us to have successful businesses that flourish, I guess, just from that starting point. But of course, we live in a world that is super Western and is going super Western as well. Like living in Sweden and coming back here, and I'm like, guys, we're going the wrong direction. Like those people on the other side are not trying to be like us, and they're trying to go back to Ubuntu and trying to go back to like the basis of things, while we are going the opposite direction. So we're talking about like self-love and going back. It's really looking at like, what were those sustainable structures that were there before, taking those and learning inspiration from that and then applying it to the now. How that looks like for business, it's gonna be up and down. People are not gonna buy into your thing if you're saying, yeah, I'm bringing Tabo and Tato, and Tabo and Tato are Black. Some people will never buy into it. But some people are gonna be like, hey, actually I wanna give this a shot. And I think that's also a win. But you're right, we live in very shaky times, and 9 to 5s are just as important. But I think to create from a place of fulfillment in many different ways, I believe that when you're creating from there, the doors open up and you don't ever have to worry about anything. But that's also me. I'm like, money will come, people will find me, things will happen, I am sorted. All I have to care about is the now. But I know that other people don't believe that because they just like, where's the bread for tomorrow, you know? But that's my thoughts. I hope I answered the second one. Please remind me of the first one.
Identity politics, the geopolitical kind of identity fragmentation, battle with the US, South Africans, Afrikaners, blackness, all of that.
Yeah, no, it's a shit show. It really is, because I think like when I read about Frantz Fanon and like Black consciousness and how they talk, and Steve Biko, and how they talk about you have to work within your group first, understand what's happening within your group, and then come out into the world to be able to say we have a seat at the table and like we are allowed to be here as a whole because we've worked on our shit and now we are here, we are present, right? I don't think it's something that's gonna happen overnight, for sure, because me and you are still arguing on the fact that like, are you really black? Like, sell out what's going on, you know? And then within that, it's like, for example, in South Africa, it's the talks about being colored and what that actually means. And then they're also trying to guard their circle. Everybody's just trying to guard. Where I think, for example, the historical understanding of blackness was very straightforward and clear. It was like, black is everybody who's oppressed. Black is all of us who's oppressed, and we're going against the system. So I think as much as it can be somewhat of a distraction, we shouldn't go away from the fact that like, the problem is capitalism. The problem is the big dogs. The problem is the big dogs who are busy making you a puppet, you know, saying you need to go here, you need to go there, and stuff like that. That's the problem. It's not you and me. You and me can sit with each other on a bus. You and me have gone over certain things. But the bigger problem is that there's somebody who's trying to take your time, essentially. Somebody's trying to distract you with like stupid shit. And that you need to stay focused about like your dreams, your goals, and your community, and taking the world to like a better place, essentially. So yeah, I think it's madness because, for example, in Sweden, when I arrived, of course, coming in from South Africa, you know, the young Winnie Mandela, everybody's just like, you know what you're talking about. When we talked about race and all of like creating spaces for Black people, it was easy for me to engage with the conversation, but I found that like my fellow Afro-Swedes, there was a divide in like being named or being called Black because they were also like mixed. And like the heritage was like West African and Swedish or somewhere else in Swedish. And so they had this conflict essentially. And it made it difficult to do anything for Black people because it was always this negotiation between their Western side and their African side. And those are two opposites, right? Where Africa is about, come, let's hold you and let's be here and warm, where the West says, you, go in your different directions kind of thing. So it always clashed. So just with that, that's why I can say like, yeah, it's a shit show. But I think it all begins with just like working on like, who are you, loving yourself and knowing that you can accept the next person as they are without having to think about that one resource that the big dogs are making you like fight for, essentially. I hope I answered that. Oh, you got it. Sorry.
Hello.
What's up, Angelo?
Good, thank you. So I wanted to ask with your experience coming from Sweden, that is there any other way that, since you also mentioned that seeing the Swedes with the Western side and the
African.
Sweden side,
Yeah.
how have you then maybe picked up on some of the things and some of the things we can also work on when you come here in South Africa and you see that, oh, maybe we can fix 1, 2, 3 using what the Swedes do.
Okay. I think one of the things specifically is to say we're going the wrong direction, which is following the West. In terms of like culture-wise, I believe we need to go back. But in Zulu, and I never get it right, but basically go back to where you came from, like not in the American way and like go back to your country way, but like go back to where you came from to understand like who you are, understand what it is that like the people from back then created. For example, with the symbols, right? Like this is part of our history. This is in everything like beads and houses and all sorts of things. And start investing in like those kind of in that history, because in finding ourselves in that way, there's like so much pride in being able to say we're not going to get distracted by the West and them taking our funding and them taking this and them taking that, because we're good here, like we're okay. So I think just like turning it down a notch, trying to be like the West. We're not a third world country, because who the hell said that we are? Yeah, like in other aspects, we're pretty first world, in terms of community, social culture, all these things. That's pretty first world. But what is it determined on? Is it only just economics? And is that what, says we are the shit or we're not the shit? Screw that. It doesn't matter. So I think, for example, just really sticking to our guns, going back to understanding abo baba bethu nabo mama bethu bayenzeni before, and how we can apply that into the now, and just trying to hold that horse back that's trying to go to the West. For me, that's number one. And number two, if politicians would just make use of the money in the right ways, like that would be great. Just functioning public transport would be nice. And just nice streets with no potholes. Ooh, it would be so nice. So just that, like, I don't know how else to like put it into words. Accountability. We have a problem with accountability. Because once you have, for example, Julius Malema saying, hey guys, this is not how you do it, then the old guys are like, no, you cannot talk to adults like that. But that's not the point. The point is the issue, right? The issue is that you're not using the money for the right things. You're not helping the community that you're saying you want to help, or the society that you say you're like sitting there for. So how about we take the little bit of money over there and sprinkle it to the rest? Kind of approach. That's how I think about it. So yeah, I think those would be the two things that I can say we should definitely apply. Creatively, no, we're doing great. You're doing great, sweeties. You're doing great. I think that there's always been this desire to create authentic stories and authentic work, and that's the one thing that I also came back here for, is to see what other people are doing. That's not just only consumed in like, yeah, we are the West and we are great and this is all we can offer and this is the best, but it really isn't. And so, yeah, I think we have multiple perspectives that we bring into our art and into our work, and that's refreshing, and that's what the world needs. We don't need to be like homogeneous in everything. So, yeah.
Just one last question.
Yeah.
So, for me as a art student, I find myself in a position where I have to do schoolwork, I have to submit given the requirements of the assignments.
Yeah.
But then there is this own creative initiatives which I have, just like maybe you with the whole Bantu and going back to our roots initiatives. So how would you maybe give advice to a student who has to deal with their schoolwork and also maybe their own initiatives?
That's a good one. And I do think I'm the right person to answer that, because when I was in university, In the beginning phases of it, it was very difficult to like make sense of the fact that like I have all these other stories that I want to tell, but I cannot bring them here. And not that I couldn't, but I think I was scared to bring them here because when you saw all the top achievers, they were talking about Bauhaus and they were talking about all these like Western things, which made sense for the discipline, right? But then how do I bring this idea of like Ugongo, Endlini, or Itexi and all of these different things? And there are a few ways that I tackled it, which was one, being brave enough to bring them. I always say, actually, it's a new thing that I've been saying, is like, why does the term fuck around and find out always align to like bad things? Why don't you fuck around and find out with good things, you know, like with that? See what happens. And maybe on the other side, you could get a 60% and not an 80, but you tried. And you brought yourself and you felt comfortable with what you brought to the table. And the other part of it was to continue to like tell those stories. So I created a documentary 2013, which was called Black Voices of Fada. I was at the University of Johannesburg, and I basically just interviewed a bunch of like my friends who were talking about like how difficult it is to be an art student and to be able to have like this beautiful rich history and not being able to bring it here, but also to have this big beautiful personality and not being able to like bring it to class because you needed to be a girl or whatever the case may be, again being boxed into like the Western construct of what it is to exist. And in creating that documentary, I was just telling their stories. Like, what do you think? Are you gonna come and continue and do your PhD here? Most of them said no, because they were like, nah, we were like, you know, being like strangled, basically. And with that documentary, it ended up going into the Design Education Forum of South Africa. I believe that's what it stands for, DEFSA. And I could bring the student voice into that space where it was like all these people who were like writing articles and, you know, talking about other things far away. I just brought the student voice to the table. And so I thought that also continuing to tell those stories that like, hey, we're not okay. It's also talking about that, like, we're not fine. As a country, we also, I feel like we need to say that. We are not fine. We just went through apartheid not so long ago, and also colonialism before that. And now we all of a sudden have to be happy and just like move on like nothing happened. No, we're not fine. So let's pause, go back, figure out what happened. So I think that kind of thinking as well applied to the schools. For me, it was like, I needed to say it. In fact, my lecturer said to me, why do you feel like you need to be the person to tell this story, you know? And I was like, why not? Why not me? Like, who else is going to tell it if I don't feel like I need to tell it, you know, because you're not telling it. So that's another way that I brought the conversation into the forefront. And the third part of it, I ended up being invited to like a syllabus, what do you call it? Like they were planning and stuff. And I was the only student in there. And I was like, so that thing is boring. Please take it out. We don't need it. And that thing over there, can we have more of this, more of this, more of this, more of this? And now when I went back to UJ, I was like, oh, aren't you guys lucky? Learning about Afrofuturism, learning about feminism, and like all these different, or specifically Black feminism. And it was a ball that like, I guess in many ways started with a lot of other people, kept rolling rather. And I think just in that, being able to continuously like try to do the things that are difficult, like just do it, because at the end of the day, it either helps you, or if not you, it helps the next person. It's not always about you, you know. Like in that situation with the Black Voices of Fada, I was living lavish in graphic design, but in fine arts, in architecture, in the other departments, they were seeing flames. And to see their flames and to understand that, okay, my flames look like this, but they're not exactly that, but I'm still gonna tell the story. I could have easily just been like, and then leave, you know? But I was like, no, actually, I want to talk about like this specific thing. So yeah.
Really, thank you for your time. And all your initiatives. Really.
Thank you. I think those were really lovely questions. Just want us to start thinking a bit further about, I guess, your perspective, your experience, the symbolism in your work, and the meaning, you know, the intention in it as well. So I think for me, I really just want to thank you for being open about your practice, how it's evolving, what it means to the next person. I think what I'm going to take from this event and your talk is also to not leave yourself at the door
Yes.
in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't leave yourself your identity, your thinking, your values. Don't leave all of that at the door. Because
100%.
that can actually pour into what you're working on, your passion, the impact that you want to have in what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
giving up your time.
Thank you.
This is just a token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much. I love you.